Hey everyone, this is the Divi. So I'm going to go in a book series and I'm going to read to you from Evermore Divine Publishing some of the work that I have done, but I'm going to read the first chapter only of the book. This one is a short story. It is under my pen name called Jean Monte. And it's called Tied to the Memory, and this is adult fiction that is drama. See? All right. And I'm going to go in here and read a bit for you. So I'm going to read chapter 1. The night was weary in hopelessness and deceit as the sights and smells seemed distant. Many cars drove past as the light began to turn green. At the crosswalk, a woman with dark red hair, brown eyes, and a petite figure stood wearing a ship's hat. She held a black bag near her and she rapidly looked inside to see her laptop, purse, and bag of food. And she looked weary from the long day of work. And the young woman glanced back at the local warehouse store where everyone in the city shopped for a better deal. The cars roared past her as she waited at the light to change for a turn to walk. She sighed as she quickly looked up to see many businesses around her. The young woman fixed her chef's hat and her shoes on the pavement robotically, and the cars continued to race down the other way as she stepped onto the street. The elderly Asian woman with short haircut walked up to her. "Excuse me, do you know where Clemens Street is?" The other woman's pale hand went to her phone in her pocket and pulled it out as they walked across the street. Let me look for it up in GPS. The elderly woman grinned and bowed her head. "Thank you. My husband told me to get to the street. We just moved here and don't know the area very well." "Don't worry about it. I will help you to where you need to go," the young woman said. The elderly woman glanced at the woman curiously. "Are you a chef?" The young woman turned her with a bright smile. "I do product demonstrations for a chocolate company. I was doing a road show, and the uniform is a chef's outfit." The elderly woman beamed and glanced at her as if she was scared by the noise of the streets, and the young woman typed in the directions and speedily found the street. And she turned and pointed to the street right in front of them. She slightly smirked at the woman. "Clemens Street is the third light. You are not far from it. Just walk 2 blocks and you will be there," the young woman said casually. The elderly woman beamed once more and bowed her head. "Thank you." The young woman turned and watched the woman disappear into the darkness, and she felt compelled to watch over her as she walked away, and yet the other woman was concerned about not missing her transportation. She turned and pressed the crosswalk button to cross the next street, and the cars continued to race against the lights. The young woman glanced up and saw her at the gas station next to her. She sighed openly and sat down with the bag. As she looked up and saw her bus come, the young woman gradually boarded the bus, and she placed her money into the dispensers, and sat down on the front seats of the bus. And she crossed her legs and placed her items near her. The young woman readjusted her things, slowly got up and dug into her chef's coat to pull out some candy. She faintly smiled and handed it to the bus driver. "Here you go. I think this will help your evening a little more," she said. The bus driver beamed at her, then took her offering, and he placed it into his pocket on the side, then placed his hands back on the wheel. And she turned back to her seat and peered outside as the lights flashed quickly at her. So that is part 1 of Tied to the Memory by Jean Monte, my pen name from Evermore Divine Publishing. That's one of my works, so I'm going to put part 2 later. Thank you. The Deity out.